Are we here? Are we here? Are we here? Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast. I'm your host, Darryl Wingfield. I want to pop this podcast off by saying thank you guys that's been tuning in to this podcast. We 50 plus episodes in. Thank you guys that's new. This is your first time listening. This is your first time watching. This podcast is pretty much about inspiring you guys to create through practical means and, improving the human experience or innovating the human experience, and by me shedding light on, my experience, other people's experiences, and other people throughout history experience, the expectation here at Purpose Served is for you to always put your best foot forward and be the best that you can possibly be in whatever it is that's um, making you create, make you think about create or doing something to the best of your ability. We don't have that. We don't have a decent amount of that. You know what I mean? There isn't enough of it nowadays. You get a whole lot of what people telling you should do, what you can't do, and what you're capable of, instead of you presenting that to the world. Now, I got my account hacked. Little side story. I got my account hacked this Friday, Memorial Day weekend. Nutty Friday, yo. So not my purpose served account, but my other account, my personal one, DWing14. Follow me, you know what I mean, on the gram. Throw your boy a follow. But we're gonna back this thing up a couple weeks ago to around I think May 10th, my brother's birthday, like around that time. This is the first time I got freaking hacked. I never got hacked in my life, but I go on to my Instagram, I see that I'm logged out, and I'm like, yo, that's mad weird. And this is how I know all of this. I posted around that time. This is actually, I think, another Friday. This 100% was another Friday. So 2 weeks ago, on a Friday, I got logged out of my account, and I'm like, yo, that's mad fishy. But I was mad determined to get down to the bottom of it. At first, I was just gonna chalk it, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna get down to the bottom of it. Got down to the bottom of it. Um, I found the Facebook that it was attached to who kept trying to log into it, but it could have been wrong. It could have been somebody um, using that account as a cover-up account to spice my account, but they're not really the actual account that was doing it. And I got hacked through somebody else who account got hacked. And this girl sent me something about Amazon gift cards, getting like $1,000 worth of Amazon gift cards, and she's trustworthy, so I trusted it. You know what I mean? Like a dummy, I trusted it, and just to have my account hacked literally a couple hours later, and I was able to get into it. But then yet again, 2 weeks rolled by. Mind you, like I said, I posted that Friday. I rarely post on my personal account. I barely even go on it. Typically, I'm on my purpose served account if I am on Instagram. And when when was this? Yeah, when I posted, I only got like 15 posts on my post in general since like 2018. That's when I got my went back on Instagram again after my hiatus, which is like I talked to you guys about my social media detox that I went on from like I want to say from 2017 until 2018. It was like 1 year. I wasn't going on social media literally at all. Uh, I unplugged from the matrix. But Friday I made the post. Saturday my account gets freaking hacked, and it's like a Bitcoin scam. And I didn't realize it. I realized it through people starting to text me and call me out of nowhere. So I'm like, yo, why is all of these people freaking calling and texting me out of nowhere? And then I'm looking at the text and it was like, yo, bro, I think your account hacked. Yo, Daryl, I think somebody got into your account. So I try to get into it. Yet again, situation that happened yet again. I'm logged out. I'm freaking logged out of my account. So I'm like, bro, I'm starting to trip. Like, yo, what? So I was able to get into my account. It took a couple hours. whoever this freaking douche was that hacked into my account, this man sent mad messages from the story, pretty much trying to will people in and scam them, with a Bitcoin mining scam. And the picture my last post, I'm wearing a suit. I'm like, got a little off guard, got my Birdman hands rubbing together. And it looked like, from that standpoint, from Friday, I look like a freaking, like a scammer, like a two-time, I'm trying to get your money dude. Like, yo, this dude looks sketchy. Before that point, I didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, yo, this is a nice picture. I'm about to post it. I ain't post in a while. Rare post from the GOAT. But yeah, I had to get down to the bottom of that. And there was a couple of people that fell for the scam, that gave out their information. And I truly felt bad, but at the same time, like, yo, you're kind of freaking dumb at the same time. But I was that dummy that did it too. Well, not Bitcoin, but that Amazon to get you. Yeah, so my weekend that was like kind of weird. I'm not even gonna lie. And there's been a couple of birthdays that passed. Shout out to my grandmother. Her birthday was yesterday. And my cousin Raheem birthday was yesterday. Shout out to him, somebody I mentioned on his podcast a couple times. And my grandmother as well mentioned. And little sis Deanna, my little sister, turned 13 last Thursday. So birthday shouts out to her. Uh, Today what I wanted to talk about was archetypes, man. And for those of you that don't know what archetypes are in this context, I'm talking about archetypes from a psychoanalytic perspective. And through um, reading some things by Carl Jung, also by Joseph Campbell, somebody I talked about here a while, and who else? Yeah, those pretty much those two. Carl Jung was the person that coined the term, that created the term, the archetype, and what the archetype is just a representation of what the collective unconscious mind or the individual's unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind represent things that we can't see, or that we like memories that we repress that we don't necessarily put too much importance to. You know what I mean? For it to be in our conscious mind, for it to be in the forefront of what we think about. But I bring this up because of the last two practices that I had with Greece, and one that I had yesterday. So pretty much, we did a practice last week to start things off with picking out five different archetypes in reference to five different things, and it was the self, the underworld, heaven, past, and future. And these archetypes can mean um, many things. And one of the archetypes, the five that I pulled for that first one, the underworld archetype that I pulled was the father. The past one was the poet. The heaven one was the riddle. The future one, I believe the future was the threshold, and the self, which was the fifth one, was the warrior. Now, all of these things in a nutshell, without boring you guys with the detail, was something that was very, very intriguing to me. And based off of what I recently just read with the hero with the thousand faces, our unconscious leads us to do a lot of things that we're very, very, very unaware of. And it's crazy how much power the unconscious mind has um, over the conscious mind, and how strong that source is. If you ever think about what keeps your organs going, what makes your heart keep beating, what makes your brain keep, you can't control what your organs do. It's its own thing. Like, you can't consciously be like, heart stop. You're gonna have to do something externally to make it stop, but you yourself can't make these things stop. And take a second to think about all the things that's operating on that kind of magnitude that you repress, memories you repress, or things that you deem as unimportant. Where does it go? And with your conscious mind and your conscious faculties, these are things that you are aware of in your field of, consciousness, what you were able to understand, what your knowledge, what you were able to perceive. Because if you didn't know something, that can very well fall into the unconscious, because that doesn't mean that that thing is not going on. It just means that you're unaware to that thing that's going on. This is going back to the previous podcast where I, touched on that a little bit. Now, those were the five archetypes originally that I picked from last week. So yesterday we did a little bit of improv with one of our practices yesterday, and one of them was just picking an archetype and writing about the archetype that was picked and journaling about it. And the archetype that I picked was the forest, and the forest was very, very, very intriguing. In a sense, I'm gonna tell you guys where the headspace I've been at. I always try to keep you guys updated with my headspace, and it's been feeling like I'm in search for the absolute truth, but in a way I don't know where to go to find it or how to find it. And I've been so hard pressed on it as of late. And through doing the things that I'm doing now, it's in reference and in light to me getting closer to that myself, because I can't tell other people or express myself in a certain way if I'm not doing those actions, if I'm not pulling them out myself. So if I feel as though doing things to the best of your ability is like of the utmost importance, and I'm not doing things to the best of my ability, how can I very well speak on that? You know what I mean? It wouldn't be my place. That's why I only talk about certain things, like, that's pertaining. That's in a way where how can I put this? In a way where I understand it through my experience, and that's why I talk about basketball, and why I talk about the things that I talk about. I'm very, very obsessed with it. But if I'm not obsessed with it, you know what I mean? If I'm unaware to it, I'm not going to talk about it. It's in my field of consciousness. But I have a habit of heading down a road where it's literally like the forest. You know what I mean? I go into a place of the unknown, and I gotta find meaning within this unknown place. That's been like my life in a nutshell, to be quite honest. And for me playing basketball, at first I didn't know that these things was transpiring, but in retrospect, in hindsight, when I come to look back at my journey, I can very well see exactly what it is that I've been through and how to piece these things together for me pretty much packing my bags, my mental bags, to head on one of those journeys yet again. It's a revolving door. Just like the hero's journey through Joseph Campbell that I'll always talk about, you know? And for me with basketball, I had to literally do things that was challenging me to the core of myself. And it made me, you know, very, very attentive. It made me alert to things that I wouldn't necessarily be that much aware to. And when I first, left the country to play basketball, I was unaware to all of these things. Like, me losing my phone, I'm on a flight for 8 hours looking over the ocean, and I'm just looking at how vast this water is, and that's also a representation for how our minds are as well, and how a lot of these places are undiscovered. You know what I mean? That we don't, the territory is there, but we have yet to put our our footprints on it. You know, leave our marks on it, and we made it through this first threshold into this plane of existence, which means that automatically we left our mark in history, whether it's insignificant or significant. You know, either way, I guess as time goes on, depending on how you look at it, it does turn um insignificant in a sense, you know, but in the totality of everything and cause and effect, it does matter. You know, you can't say that you as an individual and what you do don't matter, because it very well does. I don't give a shit for like how small it is, you know. And this is a story that I told. I don't know if I told it here, but a couple of weeks ago, I'm on my way to work and I'm sitting in traffic for like 30, 40 minutes. Ahead of me, a lady hit a car at a light. She hit a car at the light and it caused a car accident. She gets out the car, you know, doing a whole car situation, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm unaware to this. I only notice it when I get up to the light, and at this point, I'm a couple of miles away from the light, but don't understand why this traffic is the way that it is, and it caused me to be 10 minutes late for work. I wasn't the only person that was affected by this. Everybody that was in traffic that day was affected by this, and they also went to work most likely late as well, which affected the people, their coworkers that they work with, which affected the operations of whatever job that they was doing, you know. And that's something from a lady simply hitting the back of somebody else's car at a certain time period. That happens all the time. You could call it butterfly effect, you can call it causality, you can call it whatever, but it is what it is. And through me playing basketball, in a nutshell, that's collectively what was happening. I'm a 16, 17-year-old kid who's inspired through watching great players such as like Kevin Durant, Derrick Rose, Kobe Bryant, which led me to want to compete, which led me to want to be the best version that I could through something that I loved doing, which was playing basketball. And when I first picked it up, I sucked. I wasn't that good, and my ability didn't match my mindset. There was a strong disconnect there. It was things that I wanted to do that I simply couldn't do. There's a maturation process that I had to go through. You know what I mean? Where I had to expand my field of consciousness, the things that, you know what I mean, that I didn't understand. I had to understand it. You know what I mean? And over time, I didn't know what was ultimately driving me and fueling me to go hard at what I did. No, not caring what anybody else think. Honestly, not caring what anybody else think. And fast forward to 2016, when I decided that I was going to go overseas. I bought a one-way ticket to a place that I've never been before, and I wasn't necessarily planning on coming back. Um, I got into crazy situations, you know, at home. You know what I mean? With the relationships that I built up. Taught you guys about the substance abuse, what I was like getting into, just being a savage. And at the end of the day, feeling like I just needed to leave. I needed to get away because life was not going nowhere near how I thought it was going to be. I made a rash decision on going to Girona, you know, and something deep down inside me, I was scared. It was the uncertainty, like I said, in my life, and in a matter of 4 years, from 18 to 22, I decided at 21 that I was going to do it. And around 21, that's when I got arrested, got in trouble with the law and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And had to go back and forth to court, you know, dealing with a stupid case. But eventually, that led me to going overseas. And all of these things, like, it was a battle, man. I had to be battle tested. My mental had to be strong in these senses. I couldn't be weak, you know. And I'll never forget my very, very first game in Spain was, and I believe, I don't know how to pronounce this, Arbusius. That was the town that we played in, and it was crazy to get up there. It was one of those hilly, you know what I mean. We're driving up a mountain, pretty much. So it was like real sketch, and should have been a one road street. You know what I mean? It was like winding up and winding down, and just looking out at the view. You know what I mean? It's just Spain is literally, it's like peaks and valleys, man. Peaks and valleys. It's like it's yeah. It's like it's not really a mountainous terrain. It's hilly. You know what I mean? But you are you are like you know what I mean. Cities is like in the bottom of a valley on the side of on the side of a mountain. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's literally crazy. But I was nervous before my first game, man. I was extremely nervous. But I'm the type of person, man. Once I get into the situation, something just dissolves, and the nervousness, all that just disappears, and I'm just focused on what's directly what's directly in front of me. And I came off the bench this game. I was feeling good in the warm ups. I was feeling good in the layup lines and stuff like that. My shots going in. I'm feeling the flow. I'm starting to like relax. I'm starting to ease into it. And my very first possession, I got a steal, and transition, and that led to me getting the and one, converted the and one. And that game, I didn't go crazy. I only had like 9 points, I think, like 3 or 4 assists, like two steals, couple rebounds. So I did, I just did what I had to do. You know what I mean? Before that point, I was I was convinced that I was a freaking scorer. You know what I mean? Scoring like 30 and all of that. Like I told you guys, that was like my aspirations growing up was um just be like Kobe, man. Kobe scoring 40, 50 points. I've not yet touched a 50-point game. That's next on my agenda is to get that 50 piece. But I was very terrified, not very terrified. I was really nervous until I got into the game, man. And waiting to check in and everything. While I'm waiting to check in again to the game, everything's like dissipating. But ultimately, in a short amount of time, you know what I mean? I made the decision, and at the age of like 2021, that I was going to do it. And by 2022, I was doing it, you know. And before, nobody around me was doing it. I didn't have anybody around me that was pushing me to do it, you know. So I had to go into the forest, you know. I had to cross the threshold and go into the forest, a place of, you know, a path that was laid out for me, but eventually the path disappeared, and I had to find my own way through this forest. You know what I mean? That have all type of things that's either going to guide me where I need to be, or try to slow me down and stumble me upon the way. And playing basketball, I experienced literally every single last one of those things. You know what I mean? Going to a place and I'm not playing at all, you know, but end up winning a championship, or I'm playing a lot, but we're not winning. Or, you know, I'm playing a lot, I'm doing what I got to do, and everything's working out, and I end up winning. I experienced it all. And ultimately, that led to me starting Purpose Served, because through my journey of playing basketball, and at some given point, people were labeling me and telling me what I should be doing and what I was capable of, and I knew it was false. So yeah, like the only reasons why I be saying what I be saying is I know what it's like to be betting on yourself and put yourself in a situation where it truly makes you uncomfortable, but you feel as though you have to do this thing. You feel as though you have to create this thing. You feel like you have to follow that dream. You have to follow that inspiration because you do. You do. And I talk about a lot, you know what I mean? Listening to the source, listening to whatever it is that's drawing you near it. And the more you do listen to it, the louder that voice get, the more you start to see frequently signs to point you in the right direction. And typically, going back full circle with the archetypes, that's what it all is. You know what I mean? If you think about symbols and signs, they're all pointing to the unconscious. More so, you know what I mean? Certain signs, like, you know what I mean, is more consciously driven. If you see a green light, you know that, you know what the light simply means, go. You know what I mean? You don't got to really deeply interpret it and put a meaning to something that doesn't necessarily have an exact meaning to it. You know green means go. But when you think about something like the story like The Matrix that has a lot of symbolism in it, with objects that has a lot of symbolism in them, shapes, you know what I mean, that has a lot of symbolism in it. They come from the deep recesses of our mind that was already here. That's been worked through a process of generations and generations of us as human beings trading information and living off those that information to survive. And we're literally at that today. Don't Nobody wants to die. You know what I mean? Unless not to be funny, yeah, unless your life really sucked. You know what I mean? That sucks. But yeah, this is where, like I said, purpose served came into play for me. It came in from the a very deep, deep, deep unconscious repressed part of myself that led me to playing basketball, but not understanding the form or function of what led me to that in the first place. And may this be the gateway for you guys to walk that path yourself, because you're going to have things out there to guide you. But I tell you what, right now, it's not going to exactly tell you what to do unless you know the form that you're trying to take, you know. And what I mean by form, if you are looking to be a coach, if you're aspiring to be a coach, you don't have to look that you don't have to look that hard. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you're looking to be a soccer player, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. In certain aspects, though, the more you get deeper into it, you're going to have to find your own unique form that works for you, because, you know, you get this all the time when people talk about, if you start a new job and then I'm like, yeah, I do it this way, or but somebody else might train you and they do it this way. It's literally how it is. You know what I mean? And these makeups get passed on down to the next one. And something that intrigued me to really start going down the unconscious mind rabbit hole was a guy that I had on here a while back, Rick Paris, man. He introduced me to the unconscious mind and how bountiful the unconscious mind is, with you through his personal experience of, you know what I mean, leaving the grid, man. The dude died and forced his way back into his body. He got hit by a car. Rick got hit by a car that was going like 60 miles per hour, that smacked him into another car. He went right through the freaking windshield. And they even have the time when he actually died. You know what I mean? And how long he was out for. I think he died for like 20 minutes before he came back to life. You know what I mean? And not unresponsive, unconscious. The dude literally heart stopped beating. It was over. He checked out and he went to a different place that was outside of his own, and he had a out of body experience, you know. And the place that he said that he went to transcended pain. It low key transcended thought, and I was really curious about it. You know what I mean? And I wanted to talk to him about it. I found him on YouTube. I found the video of him talking about the unconscious mind on YouTube, which led me to go down the rabbit hole of finding out like who is this dude. You know what I mean? And then I ended up sending him a DM on Twitter, and he got back to me like right away. And then we started chatting back and forth. And then I think a couple days later, I called him, and we ended up talking on the phone for like 3 hours. And I haven't talked to Rick in a while, man. I think the last time we talked was like a couple of months ago. But dude is very very helpful. Dude is very intuitive, and I learned so much from him, and I learned so much from the people that I've met that I talk about all the time through this podcast. And doing the archetypes with Grace. I met Grace through this podcast. That's another person I reached out to her, messenger, seeing what she was doing. I'm like, yo, that's pretty cool. And it started out with me going to Greece because I felt as though it was too much going on at one given moment, and it felt like I didn't have enough time in a day. And the people in my life was starting to become a distraction, and not in a negative way, but they was always seeking my attention, and it felt like it was only one me to go around, and I only had enough for myself. Um, and at that time, doing Purpose Served heavy, and I'm also playing in the ABA for the Delaware Snipers. Shout out to Emily, and shout out to the Delaware Sniper Squad, man. All of those guys. Shout out to Ham. Shout out to Neef. Um, Shout out to Parker. Shout out to who else is on that squad? Anybody that was on that squad, man, and I left you off. My bad. If you just so happen to be listening to this, but um, it ultimately led me here. Everything ultimately led me here, speaking to you right now through the personal experience, which, like I said, all of these things I did not know how to do at one point. I did not know how to do anything that I just talked about at some given point. I had no clue. I had no clue. And I'm not the smartest light bulb in, the room. I'm not the brightest light bulb in the room. And it's something about application. It's something about doing things and going through the process. A tree has a process of life and death. Everything follows a process of, a cycle of life and death. You know what I mean? Birth and rebirth. The cycle, the high key, never ever ends. You know what I mean? And you're going to get pulled back, from the birth to that death cycle. You can't escape death. If you think you can, you are a dummy. Don't even try. We got this finite life for a reason. Serve your purpose. Serving is an action, and treat the purpose like it's the goal. And the journey is you making your way through the forest. And you're capable of finding your way. And in a sense, I heard something interesting today, actually. I don't remember who it's from, but the dude said that us as human beings are a beacon of light surrounded by darkness and born into darkness. And that's what our being is about, is going from a place of unconscious to conscious awareness. And through knowledge and through understanding, you bring light to a situation. And this is what I'm bringing light to, is the capabilities that I know you guys have. And you heard it here first, man. I believe in you. If you made it here to this and you made it this far, it's for a reason. Something within has resonated with you and your spirit and your soul and your mind and your body to make you attentive all the way up until this point. And don't take that for granted, and don't take that lightly. And I very much appreciate it, man. I love all y'all that tune in. You know what I mean? All the time. And I see the frequent people that's out there that's showing love. Shout out to my people that's out here in Jersey. I see y'all. Thank y'all like so much, and I appreciate it. And to the people that's across the waters, you know what I mean? Yet and still, my people in Germany, y'all literally holding it down right now with the downloads, showing love. And one person in particular that I 100% have to give a shout out to is my man Amar. Only positivity. I was listening to this podcast. This man got the machine with the laugh track, John, and the applause and everything. I need one of those. He got me hyped to get one of those so I can like sit here and gas myself up. I'm not even gonna lie, it's like his podcast, it definitely took it to another level, you know what I mean? Will me in even more, you know what I mean? But shout out to him. And also, yet again, I always got to do a shout out to, everybody from Blaze Training, Waves Entertainment, Practicing with Grace, Cassandra and her artwork, Mark and his writing, being an author, Sean with Pure Passion Sports that helped me start Purpose Serve, that helped me develop the idea to make this take shape, to have me think about life, outside of basketball. And I never thought about it until Sean, you know what I mean? I came across Sean, so huge shout outs to him, man. And everybody that's involved. And in the future, like I said, I'm still working on the digital planners. I'm still working on the Purpose Served tracker. And also, I'm working on the Purpose Served website as well. Because right now, I'm collectively trying to build a creative online wellness center as well to eventually turn it into an actual wellness center that's centered around creativity, especially for Black people in the inner city. That's the main primary focus for me personally, is to help people that need the help most, and a lot of times they don't have the resources and anything to help them with their well-being, and they struggle with things that should not be suppressed, should not go to the unconscious mind, should not be forgot about, and should be brought up in a way where they can handle it and move about life accordingly in a healthy way to make more positive and healthy decisions, And my very first facility, I would love for it to be in North, where I'm from, to help them out first and foremost, because my heart goes out to that city and how much I love that city. And that brings us to the end of the podcast. I already said the serving is an action, treat the purpose like a goal. So last but not least, this leads us to 3 words. Serve your purpose. Deuces! We out, man. Another one in the books.